as recipients of the Award for Aspirations in Computing in High School. Please join me in welcoming our panel moderator, Courtney Thurston, and our panelists, Kiana Kinkesha, Kaylee Looney, and Anna Resnick.
Hi, everybody. So thanks so much for joining us. I think we're all really excited to bring you this panel today. So my first question for my fellow panelists is, how did you feel when you were first awarded this achievement? A lot of students, when they're younger, I know I definitely felt like maybe I didn't deserve it, or maybe somebody made a mistake in giving me the award. So if you could just talk a little bit about any doubts you felt and how you overcame them.
Well, for me, I started when I first got the award. I really didn't think, I didn't think much of it. I was like, okay, this is just an award. I had ended up getting honorable mention, but then I won in the state of Virginia. So when they sent me the award for the actual award ceremony, I actually wasn't able to go. But once they sent me all the gear, the really cool gear, and welcomed me into kind of the sisterhood, I was very excited at that point, but I still didn't feel like I had deserved this award they had given me out of the thousands of girls who had applied. It was definitely surreal for me.
Yeah, absolutely, same here. I was first introduced to the award at a First Robotics event where Bloomberg, who sponsored the award for New York City, which is where I won it in 2014, was hosting like a table, and they were doing like this Women in STEM scavenger hunt. And this is definitely one of the moments that has stuck with me my whole life, where in the scavenger hunt, one of the questions was, do you know anyone who knows Ruby? And I walked around like this whole event asking around, like, does anybody know this girl named Ruby? Like, who is this chick? And when they finally like said what the responses were, they were like, no, Ruby, the programming language, like. And they said, don't worry, like, you should totally apply for this. Like, you're a woman in tech, like, your future looks great and all that. And so I did, and I won the award. And when I got to the ceremony, I looked around and I was like, I absolutely do not belong here. All of these girls look like so super intelligent, so smart. They all probably know who Ruby is, and I don't. And it was totally crazy. So if you're feeling like that, definitely not alone.
Yeah, my experience was a little different. I remember when I won the award, I overheard a conversation of my robotics team, which was full of guys. And I actually heard them talking about how women are given a leg up in the tech career, and feeling so guilty. Like, I was thinking, shoot, did I just win a pity award? And I was so shameful that I actually told my school not to announce my award in the school announcements like they normally do. But years later, it took me a couple of years to realize this, but I was deserving, and so are all of you women. You are so deserving, not only for your external achievements and all the things that you're being recognized for today, but also all of the internal obstacles that you've had to overcome, and telling yourself that you are enough, that you are capable, that you can do this. It takes so much courage, it takes a lot of guts, and you are so deserving for that reason.
Yeah, so there definitely can be, some challenges as a woman in tech, but I think the Ncwit community in particular really gives its awardees a ton of support. I know there's thousands of women now in the Facebook group in particular that really will respond to each other very actively and give that support. So if each of you could just talk a little bit about some of the support you've gotten from other women in this community and how you've leveraged that group to really chase after your individual aspirations, career goals, etc.
So I can start on this one. So I always go to the Ncwit group anytime I face any kind of struggle in tech. There have been so many times where I'm thrown on like the least appealing part of a project on a team of all men, or I hear a sexist comment, or just one of those really bad days I can't figure out a problem. I go straight to this group, and I've always, almost as soon as I post, like, hey, like, I am just not feeling it, like, someone tell me, like, remind me why I'm a woman in tech, and I get, like, thousands of comments on, no, you got this, ready to, like, kick butt, take names on my behalf. But I think one of the best things that came out of the Facebook group for me, actually, was I I guess not so recently, we just celebrated our year anniversary, started a nonprofit magazine called Reinvented Magazine. It all kind of started because I posted in the chat saying, why doesn't this kind of thing exist? And it was more of a complaint, and this group took wind of it, and almost all of our founding members came from Ncwit, and now we have so many Ncwit members that it's awesome, and that's one of the biggest reasons, and probably one of the only reasons why this magazine actually got started and has been so successful. So this huge part of my life came out of this amazing, inspiring group of incredible women.
No, I can definitely agree. When going into, because I'm a junior now, going into my sophomore year, I was looking for some type of leadership. Ncwit has a program for your individual campus where you can be a campus rep. So I applied for my school, ended up getting it, and thinking I was just going to kind of write it out, tell people on the campus about it, because there wasn't much representation of Ncwit. But I've met so many people within the North Carolina area that is connected with Ncwit. I've made so many friends and so many also mentors of people who were giving advice. The hardest thing for me was always technical interviews. So I would go to the group and kind of look through the comments and see people who were like, I'm having the same issue. And I felt like I wasn't alone, that I wasn't stupid for not being good at technical interviews. So you definitely get a lot of support. You meet a lot of nice people. And it's a very good group. And you get a lot of support.
Yeah, I completely agree. In high school, I was a very anxious and insecure kid. So when I joined the Ncwit community, I was just surprised just how inspirational all these other women were and encouraging. I think that was a big thing for me. And it gave me the courage to pursue a career in tech. And it gave me the courage to think that I deserved all of the things that I did. So I thank the Ncwit community for all of my achievements in tech. And even as a coach, I use so much of the skills that I learned then now.
Yeah, and I know that we started with the whole you deserve this award, and you absolutely do, but the other half of this award is this amazing community that you now get to join. Like I said, I won back in 2014. I immediately joined this community, and I'm speaking here today because I'm still so active, and this community is still such a big part of my life. So this award is twofold in that you get this awesome recognition for all this amazing stuff that you have been doing, because you have been doing amazing stuff. And then two, you are now part of the strongest community of women in computing and tech that I've ever seen. The camaraderie, the support, like Kiana was saying, it's there. It's very present. It's very obvious. And so, welcome.
So looking back on the past couple years, I think we're all out of high school at this point. Some of us are in our careers, some of us are studying towards future degrees. So what would you say, what advice would you give to your younger self in terms of maybe things you would do differently? And then also, especially, what things did you do really well that you would encourage other girls to definitely, put themselves out there and go do?
I'll start, since I'm the only one on the panel that's still in college. One thing, I'll start with the positive. One thing, in the school that I picked, I go to North Carolina A&T State University. My whole school is a huge community of people who support you. So in that, I got out there and looked for people who would help me in computing. I am fortunate to have a large community already on my campus of women who compute and are very supportive. So that was one good thing. I had a community of people who were keeping me accountable with my Python classes and my Lima was talking about doing MATLAB. That was a lot. I remember going through that. So that was one thing I held accountable. One thing that advice I would give is that, like Lima was saying, you will run into this male-dominated field. You may have already experienced it in high school, but you will definitely hit it in college. And you just have to keep reminding yourself that you're here for a reason. You deserve to be there just as much as they do. And sometimes you're even a little bit smarter than they are in what they're doing. So just keep pushing. There is a good result in the end of all that you go through, all the classes, all the crying at your computer. There is a good end to it.
I'll go. So a piece of advice that I would give all of you women is to let go of expectations of yourself. Because I know that in my life, like I have expected myself to always be this successful person for everyone else and to prove it that I could be a success for myself. But the earlier that I let those expectations go, the earlier that I could actually start providing more value. Because what I realize is that every one of our stories is so unique, and the little bits and pieces that make you you are the things that make you most valuable and powerful for what you do in your job and what you do in your personal life. And I just hope you all know that your voice is so important and your story is so important.
I'll piggyback a little bit off what you said. My advice is to kind of just be unapologetically yourself. I think that there's this huge stigma around what a woman in STEM looks like, and I guarantee you that I have not met very many women in STEM who look like, the stereotypical hacker, nerd, tomboy, whatever it is. And so just because you are, potentially going into this amazing world of computing and advancing in your college and career, that absolutely doesn't mean that you have to change who you are to accommodate for your new environment. You should continue to be, pretty in pink if that's what you want to be. You should continue to, I love knitting and running, and that's a part of who I am. So I'm not just the aerospace engineer weirdo who loves rockets and spent way too much time outside watching that rocket launch today. And so that's so important to understand and know all of the things that make up your identity, and to not feel like you have to sacrifice any part of yourself to do and pursue your passions in tech.
I want to piggyback off that. I love that you said be unapologetically yourself. That's such a big thing, because like you said, there is a stigma that you are this quiet person, don't really do anything else but this. Speaking for myself, I am a girly girl. I love my heels, I love my hair, I love my lashes, but I also love computing. I'll sit in front of my computer and code even during the summer in this time. So be yourself. You're not just a woman in computing. You still are everything outside of your job, and bring that to your job, because it gives you a unique perspective on the projects that you're doing or the program that you're building. All of that builds who you are as a computer scientist, whether you're going into IT, it builds who you are as a person. So bring that to the table, and it will always prevail.
And one last thing, I think people are going to judge you either way. People are going to judge you if you're in tech, if you're girly, if you're a tomboy. No matter what you do, people are going to have an opinion, and it will be good and bad. So you might as well do you, and might as well do something that you love.
Yeah, as Lamore said, be the psycho.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for your participation so far. Just a reminder for everybody watching, please put your questions in the chat using the Q&A feature down at the bottom. My next question is going to be for the panelists. What next steps do you recommend for all of our new awardees to leverage Ncwit to pursue their career goals, whether it's getting a job immediately out of high school, going to a community college, or going to a 4-year college or university, and then beyond to perhaps an eventual tech career or a different career that just blends their interest in tech with something else?
So I'm not sure I have super specific advice, but I think the number one thing you should do next is to go into the Facebook group and introduce yourself. Don't be shy about it. We'll all be in there ready to welcome you. But that's also the great place where if you don't know what you want to do just yet, or if you have a lot of questions or trying to figure stuff out, I've seen almost every question asked and answered, whether it's about college, internships, what computer you should get. I've seen Animal Crossing things shared. It's a really awesome place. So definitely make yourself familiar in that group, because it's going to be an amazing resource for you as you continue into your career, however you decide to go, for you to continue to ask questions and gain some feedback and advice.
As Kaylee said, for anyone that is not entirely certain of what they want to do in their career, Ncwit actually was a super valuable resource for me. In my background, I graduated with a computer science degree. I worked software engineering gigs, switched into product management, and now I'm a coach. And through all of those transitions, I never really felt like I was lost and alone, because there were so many other women who were experiencing confusion in their careers as well and could help guide me. So I would just say, reach out to other women in the community, start conversations, and ask for help if you need it, because we're here to support you.
I definitely agree. What I'll say from my personal experience, I went to the group when at the beginning of last year, I was looking at getting a job at Apple. It's very ambitious. They'll tell you that when you go into school. Going to these top tier tech companies is a very ambitious thing to do. At the time, I was still a freshman. So I went to the group. I looked for advice. I was looking for people who already worked there, and I got a lot of advice. So definitely make yourself known in the group on Facebook. The more you participate, the more you'll get to know people. Use it for anything you need. The more energy you put in, the more energy you'll get out. And definitely, it'll help you find your avenue. There's so many more avenues in tech that you'll know at this point in your tech career. You can go so many ways. You don't have to be a software engineer. There's so many things you can do. So definitely just be open to the possibility of anything you can learn from the group.
Okay.
Awesome. Thanks so much. So I think it's time to transition to some of our Q&A questions. So a question that's come up a lot in that Q&A feature is, how do you guys keep up with your motivation? Sometimes we hit bumps in the road, especially in college. I know someone very early career, actually holding down a full-time job is kind of like a new shocking thing, and definitely has a learning curve. So how do you kind of find your motivation in those more trying times, and how do you find that strength to keep going?
So I'll start with this one. For me, my motivation kind of started way before high school on what I wanted to do in tech. But I will say going into college has kind of slowed down my momentum. One thing I've always wanted to do is be the Black woman in tech. Growing up, I did not see a lot of Black women in tech. I want to be for other women, other girls that I did not have as a child. So that's always my motivating factor, is that if I don't do it, some little girl 10 years from now won't have somebody to look at to see it. So that's my motivating factor. I also am very competitive. So I like the boys saying that you can't do it is just fuel to my fire. I'm like, I'm going to do this whether you say it or not. So just keep in mind that people's opinion of you is not the end all be all. How you feel about yourself is what should motivate you. That would be my advice on that question.
Yeah, kind of to also piggyback on what Kiana said, I think remembering what your higher intention is in whatever you're doing, to all of the people that are counting on you for the work that you're producing and who you're doing it for. Some other strategies and techniques that I use includes like watching a motivational video or doing something active, or sometimes it's just a matter of feeling the feelings, because we're in a really weird time, and accepting that it's okay to have that feeling is usually actually the first step for me. It's just recognizing that I'm feeling uncomfortable and it's okay.
So I think for me, it's twofold. To piggyback a little bit off of what they said, it's remembering why I'm doing what I'm doing. I mean, it took me a really long time to be confident enough to say that I'm a rocket scientist, but that is what I am, and I got to where I wanted to be. And now every day I go into work, and I don't go into work, I go upstairs into my loft now because COVID. But I get to work on satellites and stuff that's in space, and that is something that I'm very passionate about. And so that is one of those things. So even on my rough days, and where a meeting doesn't go right, or again one of those annoying comments, I force myself to remember, I got my degree because I love space. I'm here, I'm doing what I love. It may not be the best day doing what I love, but I'm still doing what I love. And then I think the other thing, and this was some weird piece of advice that I saw in a meme, once of like an old man who was like recommended to like take a vacation every single day. And so even if you can't actually like go on vacation or to the beach, if you just like go outside and like remind yourself what like grass feels like in between your toes, like doing something simple like that every day, it helps me kind of refresh my mind and just keep going no matter like how terrible it is. It's really hard to be stressed out when I'm sitting on the couch petting my dogs or knitting or buying one of my cool pins, which I wanted to show off. So yeah, that's my other recommendation.
I have another silly piece of advice. Something that I've been using recently is just talking to myself in front of a mirror, just explaining to myself like what I'm feeling and having a conversation that's real and raw, rather than the normal like pep talk. And that's helped me a lot.
And I think the last one, I feel like we said it 1,000,001 times, but it's the remind yourself that you're not alone, that there are so many of us that exist. I'm going to drop back, we have this community for you. So if like you can't self-motivate, there are women, at least 4 of us here right now, and like a whole behind the scenes of like 10 others at Ncwit who are ready to like remind you how awesome you are. But to have the people in your corner and to know where that corner is when you need it is also super important, because there is always going to be a day, whether it's your anxiety, depression, or just a in general bad day that keeps you down, where you can't self-motivate. And so know that there are people out there that are ready to help you out.
That's awesome. So we have a couple questions in the chat from people who are persons of color and have struggled with not seeing representation of themselves in media, at their schools, etc. Girls who have disabilities and maybe are struggling with pain alongside, trying to pursue a very challenging degree program or career. So what advice would you all have for folks who have these added complexities in the tech world, for, just, again, having the right mindset to know that they are welcome and that their perspective is super, super valuable in tech?
So my advice, I'm not even gonna lie to you, it's gonna be hard, because for many of us there is the lack of representation. And like I was saying in my prior answer, is that a lot of us are going into the field because we didn't have the representation. So the advice I can give you is find a community of people who are like you, who understand you, though it may be hard. I'll tell you it is hard, but you'll find people. As you walk through your tech career, you'll find people who understand. And also, if you see somebody, a lot of you are coming out of high school or in high school, if you see somebody in middle school who wants to do this, be that person for them that you don't see for yourself. You have to be the change that you want to see. So if you just have to trailblaze, push through it, and you'll find your group. I will say that. I was fortunate enough to find my group, and they're some of the most supportive people I'll ever find. They're my true college friends, as you call them, and they push me every day. They push me in my job even when I want to quit, and I push them for their internships as well. So once you find your group, you'll be just fine.
Yeah, I have very similar thoughts. I think whatever steps you're taking in this moment that require a bit of courage, there is someone out there that is like 2 or 3 steps behind. And that person is having questions of, what can I do this? Can I make it in this career? Am I capable? And you are an inspiration to all of those people that are the 2 or 3 steps behind you. So remembering that you have so much power in your role, and you can reel that power in to that very moment and step into that. And another thing, I think a lot of you women, like, this isn't your first rodeo. You've experienced a lot already of hard situations. And if you look back into the past and see how much you've grown, you'll know that you have the strength to persevere and you can do this.
Just to piggyback off that, I want to let y'all know it is okay if sometimes in situations of people who don't understand you, people who don't want to understand you, if you have to remove yourself from the situation, calm yourself. If you have to cry it out. But as long as you pick yourself up, go back in that room and show them that you're there and you're not going anywhere. You have to, I can't explain this enough. You cannot stop because of somebody who doesn't want to understand you or want to know who you are. Because you are not a color, you're not an ethnicity, you're not a disability. You have to push through because there is someone coming up behind you who is going to need to see you. So that's, yeah.
So we have time for one more question, I think. So the question is, have you been involved in women-specific groups on your college campus? If so, how did you go about kind of finding that group of really supportive women? And then also, what are some opportunities to reach back and kind of create safe spaces for younger women, whether it's through Ncwit's Aspire IT or even some other initiatives? How can you start giving back?
I can start a little bit on this one. So I've done a few things. I've run my own Aspire IT program. They're super worthwhile. It's amazing. It is specifically for middle school girls. So not quite, all of you awardees level. You guys are a little beyond that. However, if you're looking to create a safe space for the next generation, that's an awesome program to get involved with that you now all can get involved with. Another organization I was pretty involved with is Ncwit, and I'm still pretty involved with Ncwit today. That was the Leadership Development Program coordinator for next year. And they were an awesome group. I really liked them. They kind of encompass all of engineering. Since I was an aerospace engineer, I wasn't, super into the computing clubs specifically, but they were a great resource. However, I think that when it comes to creating a safe space and, finding your safe space, it's also not super hard to go out and do it yourself. Women in tech are, they want that. They're craving that. They need that space. And so you stepping up and being, the fearless leader who, trust me, I'm not fearless most days, but it just takes the one day to go out and do it. And women will follow you because we want to follow you, because we also want those things. So don't be afraid to start something new on your campuses or, in your places of work or wherever it is, in your communities. And don't be afraid to get involved with some of the organizations that have come out of Ncwit. Like, for example, I'll do another shout out to Reinvented, but we're an organization of all women, and we do work on our magazine, but we also have random chats about what college is like and things like that. So don't be afraid to reach out to the Ncwit group and see what virtual opportunities there are as well.
Kaylee took the words right out of my mouth. If you don't have the space, make the space for yourself. That's probably the greatest advice you can do. Being in college, a lot of colleges have what we call organizational fairs or org fairs. That's one good place to find them. Meeting girls in the classes that you'll have in the fall, or whenever you end up going into your college career. That's a good way to meet your future friends, because believe me, if you feel a certain way in the class, they feel the same way as a woman. Another thing, she had mentioned Ncwit. Another one that I'm really involved with as well is rewriting the code. I love rewriting the code. They're just as diverse as Ncwit. And one thing about reaching back, one thing I did coming out of high school is, as soon as I would go back for breaks, I would go back and speak at my high school. I went to a trade school when I was in high school, so I went back and spoke to them. That is the easiest way you can go back and start to reach back, because there's people coming up directly behind you that need your advice. And that's a really good thing to do. They might look at you a little crazy when you go back, but they take your advice and they'll remember everything you've told them.
No, and that is so important, and I think that that's something that is very underappreciated or undersold, where you all now have a responsibility almost to give back. We are here talking to you because we've been through this, and I can tell you all four of us on this panel have spoken 1,000,001 times about us being a woman in tech, but that's you guys now. So it's your turn to step up and tell your story, because your story is so important. No matter how, where, what, when things happened, you are a woman in tech, and you're a role model to those middle schoolers going through the Aspire IT program, or those about to graduate now, high schoolers. And I know some of you are there, but you're about to be in college, so the grade below you, and tell them what your experiences were like.
I 100% agree. Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead. If you have a last-minute comment, definitely.
Yeah, just one last comment related to what these ladies have already said. But however far you go, however much you achieve, never forget where you came from.
Yeah, I think that's super key. And thank you all for sharing your really unique perspectives. For anyone who's new to the community, definitely reach out in that Facebook group. If you're an awardee, you can sync up with all of us in that group. So definitely reach out and make yourself known now that you're part of kind of the sisterhood.
Thank you so much to all four of our panelists, Courtney, Kiana, Kaylee, and Anna. I know there's a lot of conversations going on in the Q&A and a lot of unanswered questions, but all four of our panelists are in that Facebook group that they mentioned. So please, if you are a recipient, you are welcome to join the group there and continue the conversation. All right, well, so now we are going to take one more quick poll.